Hello, everybody. Intuition here. Thank you, as always, for making time and space for us. The topic in which we would like to discuss today is the fundamentals of channeling. Seems like a lot of spiritualists and spiritual guides and religions and everybody else in between has a million suggestions on how to channel. And they'll tell you to, well, just go and sit down in a nice quiet place and allow the earth to come and greet you and send your root chakra down into the earth and blah, 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 blah. And all that is really fantastic and fun and exciting stuff. However, that is not how we understand or how we get in touch with the idea of channeling. And when we speak of channeling, what we talk about is the idea of getting in touch with an aspect that you identify as outside of yourself and gaining the information in which that aspect outside of yourself has in order to bring it down to you to either aid you in your growth or aid others in their growth. So that is what we mean and what we understand the idea of channeling to be. But before you jump into something head first, it is usually very important to have the playbook, the fundamentals, the how-tos before you just dive into going into different realms with no knowledge on how to potentially protect yourself or what the hell you're even diving into to begin with. So we feel as though it is very important to provide all with that information before we even start talking about how you would start channeling to begin with. And once you have more of an understanding of some of the fundamental questions that you have to ask yourself before you start channeling, then it will make it 100% easier, we guarantee, than you just moving headfirst into something very vague and abstract. So the first thing that we invite you to get into an awareness of is the label of channeling. It seems dumb and silly and stupid, but the definition of itself, the word and the verbiage of channeling is very limiting, and it is putting something on a pedestal. And if you put something on a pedestal, it makes it that much harder for you to bring it down into realization and realize that you were doing channeling all the time. And what we mean by that is, for many of us, we are channeling the other aspect of ourselves. We are channeling the angels. We are channeling our highest self. We are channeling the spirits around us all the time. But again, because we are narcissistic, so to speak, and think that everything that we hear is us and everything that's going in and on and around our body is us, we forget that there are other things within us as well as outside of us that are affecting us all day long. So the idea of channeling, again, is putting some kind of something on a pedestal that needs not be on a pedestal, because you are not channeling anything. If you want to use that word channeling, then therefore you should use it all the time. I'm channeling my arm right now. Look at it rising. I'm channeling it. You're not channeling your arm. It's an extension of you. And then therefore, the idea is all these ideas of I'm channeling this and I'm channeling that. Really, all these things are an extension of you, and that's why you're able to do it. You're not channeling your arm to rise up. You don't have to try and get into a meditative state and throw your root chakra down into the earth just so you could start moving your arm up and down. That's silly. And that goes for the same as channeling. You don't have to pedestalize it and say that I need to get in a very certain and particular space in order for me to access the spiritual realm. No, you're doing it all the time. Literally, half the voices that are going on in your head are from the spiritual realm, if you want to get crazy about it. So it's just you discerning whose voice it is and where it's coming from. So the idea of channeling itself, removing the word of channeling, because that is putting it more in a realistic framework. I'm not channeling when I'm using my arm. I just pick it up when I am needing to use it. So then therefore changing it to I am accessing a different aspect of myself, because that is a lot more horizontal than this idea of this vertical leap that I have to jump into like a gymnast in order to get to this very special place in order to start channeling something that is not me. It's all an extension of you, so then therefore all you have to do is access it. All you have to do is pick it up, so to speak. So channeling, the word channeling, get it out of your vocabulary, and it will make it a lot easier for you to be in awareness of when you are accessing a different aspect of yourself, because that's really all it is. So that's the first fundamental that we'd like to throw out. The second fundamental is, what are you wanting to access? That is an inherently huge question, because again, a lot of spiritualists will say, well, just go and start channeling. Well, what the hell do you want to channel? What are you trying to get an access to within yourself that therefore will allow you the movement, the access to the information that you're looking for? Because depending on what it is that you're trying to access, you're going to have to open yourself up in a different way. Again, for instance, using the body part, I'm not going to say I'm going to channel my arm, right? In the same way, I'm not going to say, well, I'm going to start using my body to start moving in a direction. Well, what body part are you going to use? You need to be clear on what it is that you're trying to achieve in order to access that body part so that it starts moving in that direction in which you're wanting it to move to. Otherwise, you're going to stay stuck. So you have to be clear on what it is that you're trying to access, so then therefore you choose the right avenue, choose the right limb, so to speak, for you to start accessing that information that you're looking for. So are you trying to access your higher self? And we use it in air parentheses because there is no such thing as a higher self. That's another label that we encourage you to throw out of your vocabulary. There is nothing outside of you in that way that is levitating, that is more evolved than you, telling you the shoulds and shouldn'ts that are happening in your life. That's not reality in the way that we understand it. It is more of the idea that you are your own higher self, you are the most evolved, you are the one that is controlling the body, so to speak, and there's another aspect of yourself that maybe that is where the confusion is. That's why they call it a higher self. But there's simply just another aspect of yourself that is containing the awareness of all it is that you are before you came into a human physicality. But just because it remembers all it is that you were doesn't mean that it's more evolved than you right now, because it's having a completely different experience as you are having a completely different experience from it. But just because you're having a completely different experience doesn't make one more evolved than the other. It simply means that you're seeing two different things at the same time because you are connected in that way. So then therefore, getting rid of another definition of a higher self, but you have to be clear on what I'm trying to get an access to. Am I trying to get an access to that other aspect of myself that remembers all it is that I was before I came into a physical body? Because that's going to require a different process, a different entrainment, a different entanglement of my energy to access that. Am I trying to access the angelic realm, the angels? And again, I use air quotes, air parentheses, because that is also another mislabel as we understand it. Angels are not angels, though that's a very beautiful term. They love being called angels. It pumps them up, but they're not angels. There's no such thing as angels. There are such things as our divine significant other, and they often, all the time, get confused as angels. But they are not angels in the way that you describe and label them as angels. That is not a correct, as we see it, definition of what that means. It is simply, we have a divine partnering. All of us, all the 7 universal principalities have a divine partnering. And if you're into angel stuff, then I'm sure you're aware that there are 7 main angels, just like there are 7 main universal principalities that created this earth and this universe that we're all sitting in right now. So our divine partner is usually the angels or our guardian angel that is always with us. But that's not a guardian angel. That is literally our significant other that is disembodied right now, helping, aiding us, and assisting us in each and every way that they can, because they want us to get the hell back home. So that is their MO, so to speak, in being with us. It is not a guardian angel. It is not the classification in which you put in it. It is, again, our divine significant other that we have entangled ourselves in from a marriage, if you want to call it that, and a chemical, emotional, energetic marriage that we have moved into in the space in which we originate from. And because we are entangled, we entangled our energy in such a way, we are one even though we are separate. So then therefore, wherever we go, they go. Not because we are the same thing like that other aspect of ourselves are, but because we are one in a different way. I don't know if you're catching on to this, but then therefore that makes 3 individuals in this body, so to speak, 3 different things that you could get in touch with, right? Because there is that other aspect of yourself that you are always connected to. There are the angels, even though that is your divine significant partner, your divine significant other. And then there is you. 3, the Holy Trinity. Surprise, surprise. But anyway, so you have the Holy Trinity going. So it depends on who it is and what it is that you're trying to access, channel, get in touch with. But again, all of these things are not outside of you, so to speak. All these things are just an extension of you. So for you to say that I am horizontally or vertically doing this big jump in order to access this big information is funny, because you are not having to really go anywhere or do anything or throw yourself into a very serious meditation to do it. It's happening all the time, but it's just because there is no discernment of what it is that's going on around you, because you think everything is you. You miss that there are things within you, going on within you and going on outside of you that aren't just you. So the question is, one of the big fundamentals of accessing these different channels, these different pieces of yourself, is what is it that I'm trying to access? Am I trying to access the memory of all it is that I am? Am I trying to access my divine love, my divine partner, who can also aid and assist me in my each and everyday life, like that other aspect of myself can? Or am I trying to access the disembodied spirits, which we don't recommend, because if you are trying to access disembodied spirits, usually the disembodied spirits that you're trying to access, or the disembodied spirits that come to answer your call, are not the ones that you probably want to be entertaining a conversation with. Usually, if you're disembodied, you're on 2 different trajectories. You are trying to either come into a body, so you are in your planning process of how to come into a body and what that's going to look like for you in the next life, or you are on an evolutionary track in which you believe it would be best suitable for you to understand yourself through your own lens, and therefore you will be disembodied for some time on your own journey figuring yourself out. But if you're on your own journey figuring yourself out, you're not wasting time talking to somebody in a body trying to figure out how to win the lottery. That's a waste of time. Likewise, if you are on the trajectory of trying to plan for your next human body, you're not going to be talking to somebody who's in a human body. That's another waste of time. You got things to do, people to stalk, things to understand about the family you're trying to adopt. Not talking to JoJo about some nonsense regarding her cat. So the bodies, the disembodied bodies that come to answer your call, usually, if you're channeling in that way, are disembodied energies that are not wanting to move on. You could call them ghosts, but we don't really see them as such. We see them as malingerers. They're just sitting and waiting. They don't want to go into a body, nor do they really want to evolve on their own accord. They want to over-identify with their last life. They're holding on as much as they can to the identification of the personality that they had. And then therefore, if they're answering your call, what it is that they're going to be able to offer you is going to be very limited. It's not going to be anything based in any incredible worldly or universal or cosmic knowledge. It's going to be based in their past life when they were, in the 60s, listening to some crazy rock music. And the times were just insane. But unless that's the kind of information that you're trying to get access to, and that'll help you evolve into the being that you're trying to be, we don't recommend you going towards that directionality with summoning these disembodied spirits that are just walking around aimlessly trying to understand, or maybe not understand, how to move forward in their own evolutionary process. They're using you as an escape to further push them farther away from what it is that they know inherently they need to do. It is productive procrastination that happens even when you're disembodied. So we don't recommend you going in that direction. However, if that's the direction you want to go, you feel like you could get some cool information from those beings, then Assalamu alaikum. You do you. You enjoy that path that you're on with them. So there's that. There's also the idea, well, I want to get in touch with my dead Aunt Fifi. I love Aunt Fifi. She died suddenly. I cry for Fifi every day. How do I get in touch with her? So that is another thing that we're not going to say that we do or do not recommend. However, you can access dead Aunt Fifi easier through the lens or through you gaining access from either your other aspect of self or your divine partner. To go out and to look for Aunt Fifi is a lot. It's going to be a lot for you. It's going to be a lot for Aunt Fifi. And usually, just like you don't want to be answering the call for some disembodied spirits, in theory, it's a great idea to talk to your dead ancestors. But in reality, you're going to be disappointed more times than not. Because they're going through a lot of shit, literally and figuratively. They're either trying to evolve on their own accord through their own lens and therefore are not within a body, or they're planning for their next re-embodiment, their next reanimation within a human body, or they're just walking around being crazy, answering strange calls that they have no business answering. So depending on where it is that your Aunt Fifi is in their own evolutionary process, and our understanding when Brilliant has reached out to different dead ancestors, there's always a disheartening answer back. And the disheartening answer back is because they are still very much the same individuals you kind of remember them to be when they're alive. It is not as if they die and then they become all-knowing, all-evolved, all-encompassing, all-healed. They're still the crazy, emotionally unstable beings that they were, if not more so, when they're disembodied than when they were in body. So for you to go and call upon your dead Aunt Fifi, you will probably get the same minutia that you were used to when they were in body. Well, you say, well, I want some closure. I want closure with her because she did this, that, the other. And again, when you are channeling those disembodied energies and they have not done enough of their own evolution, you're going to get the same response that you probably would have when they were in body. So if they were very shameful about some of the things that they did in the past, or very guilt-ridden, or they liked to shame others, that is very similar to the idea that what you will receive back in their answering. Again, it is not because you die that you become all-knowing and you are able to levitate and you understand all the wrongs in which you did. Sometimes, but not all the time. And so then, therefore, it is sometimes easier, better, less of a frustration to use your other aspect of self or your divine love to reach them for you and receive back the message, because they're able to give you more insight on what it is that they're going through than usually the disembodied dead ancestor that you're trying to reach and have a connection with in that way. So all of those are very important fundamental understandings of channeling, of accessing those different spaces within yourself. But you have to be clear if this is what it is that you'd like to do. You have to be, and forewarning, everybody could do it. Like I said, it is not, you have to be a starseed, a lumineer, a rainbow child, whatever nonsensical words they're using for the different generations that are being born. You don't have to be anything special. You're already special. You're on this planet, which means that you've already made it. So then therefore you can do it. If you're breathing, you could do it. So it is not a question of can you do it. You're doing it more than likely all day long anyway. It's just now you have to start listening, but it's discerning what aspect of yourself are you trying to access, so therefore you know how to start engaging it in a more meaningful way without just accidentally engaging it and not really knowing that that's what you're engaging with, like you do for every day, most of the day. Like we said, if you say, well, I want to move towards the door, well, body, let's get moving. That's not how your body works. Just like that's not how accessing those pieces of yourself work. You have to be clear on how you're going to move in order to get to the door. First, I need to stand up. Then I need to move my left leg. Then I need to move my right leg. Then I need to do that until I get to the door. But you don't just say, well, body, let's get moving, because then it will just continue to sit there until you give it more of a directionality to go in. So be clear on what it is that you want to access. Are you trying to access your other aspect of self? Are you trying to access your angels, which is really just your divine partner? Or are you trying to access the different disembodied spirits? And once you have that answer, potentially we will have the next video for you and how to access those 3 different dimensionalities that already very much exist within yourself. As always, we thank you for giving us time and space and making time and space for us. And we wish you well in your discernment and understanding of what it is that you're trying to get an access with to begin with.